So I'm hearing a lot about the red pill. And I notice a lot of people, it's kind of cool when you first realize that things are a little bit crazy, and then later on, people kind of get depressed.
Right.
You notice that?
Yeah, I do. I think especially right now with what's happened with the inauguration, the quote-unquote insurrection, the dates that keep being given to people about when things will actually happen, and then they get pushed back. I think there's a lot of people that are feeling that depression. And then there's the other side of it where some people have been awakened to this evil that exists in the world, and they've seen things that have changed them.
Yeah.
And that they can't unsee. But I also think that when people talk about the red pill, they tend to talk about it like this full-on one or the other. You're either blue-pilled 100% or you're red-pilled 100%, and I think most people are nowhere near 100% red-pilled. They have scratched the surface, and it's human nature to want easy answers.
Yeah.
It's human nature to want other people that know more than us to tell us, and also to save us.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's a lot of people who woke up, but then they may have taken a little bit of the blue pill afterwards, instead of truly trying to find the difficult answers.
You mean because they
that are out
kind of
there.
want some comfort?
Yeah, it's hard to see the big picture. It takes a lot of research and a lot of time and a lot of investigation that's done on your own, using critical thinking and being really good with search engines, and it's getting harder and harder all the time because they keep changing the algorithms to hide the truth.
Yeah,
Right?
you can't even find what's true. Yeah, that's a whole thing by itself. And when you say about people feeling red-pilled, I make a point to look at a lot of things. I make a point to look at dark ideas or any idea, weird ideas. But even I, up until a few months ago, I didn't realize how much even recycling is a lie. Even recycling is a lie. Like, I know about the Rockefeller medical system, and I know about big oil, and I know about all these things, and then they took away recycling from me, and I was like, damn it.
It's amazing how many things we believe that aren't true.
How are you screwing me even on my plastic containers? Yeah.
Yes, I've been telling people this for quite a long time, and when I first saw what percentage of even aluminum and plastic bottles actually get recycled, it's like 2 to 3%.
Yeah.
And the rest of it just winds up in a landfill in India or China, and the poor sift through for things that they can.
Yeah, and some of my family, they know that there's a lot of darkness going on, and I carried that about the recycling. I carried it by myself for a few days because I just didn't even want to tell them. My mom is actually kind of a tree hugger. She loves nature. She loves trees. Like, we were around trees where a forest fire went through, and she held onto the tree and started to cry. Okay, so. So then I see what she does with her recycling, and I didn't even want to tell her.
Man, that's where we are right now.
Yeah, so then people get to this point where I feel like you kind of start to notice something's wrong, and then you kind of dig, and then there's all these layers. There's these layers, and there's this whole cast of characters you'll sift through. Like, you'll cross paths with, like, Cernovich and Jack Probisek or whatever, and there's all these cast of characters of different people who will claim to tell you things. And then at some point, people tend to hit a wall. They hit a wall of feeling helpless. And it's this really dark place. And I'm way past that. So that's why I notice. And I see people get stuck there in this kind of desolate landscape. And they get stuck there by themselves, and they don't even want to say where they're stuck because they don't want it to be contagious, and they think other people don't know.
Right. No, I can definitely see that, and I think a lot of that is due to the fact that these blue checks, whereas you like to say all the time, is where truth goes to die.
Definitely.
They seem to be giving tidbits, breadcrumbs and kernels of truth, and then their answer is always, well, we'll just have to get them next year in the election, and we'll just have to create a new political party.
I know. Are they simulations, Wallace? Are they just? I mean, where do these things come from? It's like they're human calculators that put out whatever is the talking point that the machine. I mean, it's like all of this is written by AI, so that's always possible. That's always possible. Do I even exist?
Well,
am I sitting here? I don't know.
NASA does say we are a hologram. And I don't know about you, but I absolutely trust any institution that was started by Nazi scientists brought over in Operation Paperclip.
Oh, totally. I trust and depend on every word they say.
Yes.
That's
They've
always
never lied.
It's always good on the camera shots when they're in space and a mouse walks across. It's like,
right.
oh.
Yes. Well,
apparently.
Stanley Kubrick didn't have proper animal pest control working on the set, so.
They need to have the pesticide people come by the space station. I don't know. If
you fumigate first, yeah, you probably fix that problem.
Yeah, so I see all these people get stuck in this place of death, and with the election and everything. Actually, somebody said to me the other day, I haven't felt anything since January 20th.
Yeah.
And that really...
A lot of people are feeling
yeah,
it.
that stuck with me because, it's a feeling of the death of dreams. It's not even only an election or something. It's the death of dreams, the death of the future, the death of your visions for yourself and the kids that you either have or thought you might have. It's deep. It's very profound.
And I guess that's one of the risks that we run when we put all of our faith into what appears to be our solution that's being given to us by others, and we put our faith and trust in them, but we haven't taken responsibility with our own lives to create our own backup plans, or we haven't gotten together in large groups and said, what if this doesn't work? What if this isn't actually what we're being told it is?
Yeah.
What if the dates keep getting pushed back because it isn't about trusting in some plan that will save us, it's about believing something that keeps us from doing anything until it's too late to do anything.
Well, and I still do. I get messages from people who are basically not yelling at me, but they're very stern and telling me that it's my personal limitation that I can't see how great this is going.
Right. There's true believers everywhere.
They still say that, and they put it on my personal failings too, on my negative expectations, and they actually even imply that I have low expectations of human nature, which is actually completely the opposite. I have such deep respect for human nature and its potential, but that's not what this is. That's not what this is. So then they say it's my fault, and I'm just too wrapped up in negative personality problems to see how wonderful this is going. And I didn't want to break their hearts by saying, I said, well, to be fair, I also could say that you are living in delusion, but I wouldn't. Well, I just did say that. But
and isn't that the interesting part? Is we all somewhat live in a delusion?
Totally.
But it's the part that we share we call reality.
Well, something you said reminded me of this quote that someone sent me, and tell me if I think this is going to resonate with you. Okay, this is from Admiral Stockdale, who was a POW, which is a story in itself, because I think he might have been in the POW camp with John McCain, which is a very mysterious story. The truth of that story, I don't think we will ever know. But this quote comes from Stockdale, and a lot of people respected Stockdale, and he said, "You must never confuse faith that you will prevail in the end with the discipline to confront the most brutal facts of your current reality."
Wow, I love that.
Right? I think that fits. And then he said, "I never lost faith in the end of the story. I never doubted that not only would I get out, but also that I would prevail in the end and turn the experience into the defining event of my life, which in retrospect I would not trade.
I think that sums up perfectly where we need to be mentally.
Yeah, and I wouldn't trade a lot about where we are. As awful as it is, with the great people that I meet, the great people I talk to, and the conversations that are happening, there's all this life bursting forth. So would I trade it to get the old world back? I'm not sure I would.
I absolutely wouldn't. I remember what it was like 15, 16 years ago, being one of the only people that I know of that was actively trying to warn people about the New World Order and the type of world that we'd be inheriting if we didn't stop it. And
that had to be lonely.
It was a very, very lonely time. Yes,
I can't
there were
even
not many
imagine how
people.
lonely. And I talked to some people, like one guy, he said after 9/11 he woke up, and you think back on all those years, all those times of feeling isolated from the masses. That's a lot of people have a lot of loneliness.
And that's the beauty of right now is, and I say it to people that maybe didn't wake up until 2016, because that seems to be when a huge bomb went off in the in people's psyche. And what I say to them is, if you're feeling hopeless, what I can tell you is there's never been more people on planet Earth that are willing to stand against the Great Reset, the New World Order, whatever you want to call it. And more of them today know what we're up against. It's not this. There's a lot of confusion about what the Great Reset is and what the New World Order really is about. And it's not just global control, it's depopulation, there's a lot of dark things. And when we talk about Italy and what happened there, the restaurants that decided to remain open in defiance of the lockdown orders, and the patrons that were in there escorted the police out when they showed up.
Good for them.
Chanting freedom. And it's amazing to see that people are doing this, and in all Western nations where this seems to be, I don't see it happening in the rest of the world the way it's happening in the West. And it's because to make the New World Order happen, the West has to fall.
Yeah.
Because the West is strong, and we can actually fight back. And that's part of the reason why self-sufficiency, they want to end self-sufficiency. And other than getting us on our knees, it's also about controlling population size. And as Henry Kissinger used to say a lot, they see us as useless eaters, right?
Yeah.
So if we submit, and we think that all of us, by submitting, get to make it to this new world where you have a watch on your wrist that tells you how many hours of life you have left and you need to go to work for it. The good movie with Justin Timberlake, where that's the life they live, is they wake up every morning with 24 hours to live, and they don't go out and do what they need to do for the day. They don't get extended. And
and the great resource is very much about resource allocation. It's so ironic that the only people who never lose are the billionaires. There's nothing that they lose from their lives, as they're saying that the rest of us have to eat crickets and
right.
and be allocated our food portions per adequate consumption. Not consumption you would necessarily enjoy, but what's adequate. And then there are these supervillains, comic-style supervillains, who never miss a private jet with champagne and whatever they want to eat. It's bizarre how they feel like they've earned that and they can take it from you.
There's nothing like appointing John Kerry, who has 8 mansions and a private jet, to lecture everybody about not burning fossil fuels, right?
Well, it seems like they make a point to do the ultimate irony. Yeah, it seems like they just show us everything that's as ridiculous as you could possibly make it. The entire cabinet, everybody who's in DC, it's like they made a list of a horror show and put it there, like Halloween.
It is. It's like it's a joke.
Mm-hmm.
It's an insult to our intelligence, but it works. So to them, it's one of the best jokes they could ever play, and they laugh about it behind closed doors when they appoint somebody that identifies as an alien from Star Wars as the Minister of Health.
Yeah.
When you
And whatever are your different issues, everyone can eat lettuce. Everyone.
Exactly. But you see, the beauty about nobody owning anything is that the ultra wealthy will get unbelievable credit in the social credit system, and they'll be able to do lifetime rentals, right?
Ah.
So they won't own it, right? Which makes me wonder what happens if I go take it. But I won't get into that right now. Because legally, can you have something stolen from you that you don't have the right to own? There's lots of questions that the Marxists haven't really pondered, but they love the idea.
They've never pondered. They've never pondered.
I don't even
anything.
think they know what the word means.
No.
Yeah.
No, they never. And then later, I don't know. There were a couple of really funny things before the election. I think it was Marianne Williamson that she posted before the election about how she thought Trump supporters were going to round her up on buses. She actually thought
Right.
that, and she posted that she had a talk with her child to prepare them. And you just what?
There's so much child abuse there. Just
Yes!
so much. I mean,
Yes.
for 4 years they've been terrorizing their children
Yes.
that Trump would nuke everybody, right?
Oh man. Yeah, and then there was, I think it was Naomi Wolf, who I've heard her say things that are skeptical of like the neocon wars. So in the past, I've been generous with Naomi Wolf, and then right after Biden was elected or something, she came out with that post that was like, "Wait a minute, he never said he was going to make us wear masks. What?" And everybody was just like, "How did you not know that? How did you not know that?"
It's very strange how so many people can be so deep in one area and then so superficial in another.
Yeah. So I get why people hit this wall. And when they see, I know from talking to people that when they see some of the things that I see, like even the fact that I knew to not trust Pence, people yelled at me for that too. And they said, well,
Right.
what do you mean? What do you think, we should have war? And I'm saying, no, I'm just telling you, I wouldn't put I wouldn't put your life in his hands. I'm just telling you reality. I'm not making it happen, but I can tell that when people encounter, as they go to the depths of this place, it does get dark. And so that's why I make a point that there's a place beyond all of those red pills. There's a place beyond, and it's a place of life and creation. And I actually see incredible things being born right now as we speak, because those of us who are past it, once you get past the death phase, and a guy said to me the other day, because I said something he perceived as positive. I'm actually super jaded, but he perceived me as positive. I'm just so jaded that I came back to life. That's what it is. And I am an expert on being mad. So I'm past it, and that's why I can laugh. But he said to me, I need to be angry for a while. I need to go through these phases. And I said, you're right. You're not wrong. It's just when you're done, come meet back up and we'll laugh. Because you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. It's horrible what these people are trying to do. It's psychotic. There's listening devices everywhere. They scan everything we say. It's psychotic. And they're lowering the fences around the pigs and just hoping that we don't flinch as the fence comes down around us,
Yeah, I can see that. I think people are going through stages of grief with seeing the world that they thought existed die before their eyes.
Absolutely. And then there's the death of your ego. For me, I experienced a death of dreams, such as not only your whole future that you were hoping to have in a happy way. When I look back, my dad, when he raised me, he thought the world was going to get better. He launched me into a world that was going to get better and better. And he thought that's where it has to be. Now, when I walk down the street, in certain places, I have encountered groups of teenage girls who look at me like they're hunting.
Mm.
Like they're hunting.
Yeah.
Because our society is going so into the Hunger Games that they wonder what they can take, and they want to outdo the boys. I'm perfectly safe in crowds of guys. So that says a weird thing right there about where we're at. It's the groups of girls that are turning into savage animals that are looking for somebody to hunt and steal from.
It almost seems like the Hunger Games was a psyop to
Totally.
to coerce the youth into this mindset of limited resources and
The purge.
alliances and betrayals. And I think seeing Lady Gaga wear the bird pin and try to emulate that character from the show, that moment said to me, okay, the Hunger Games are definitely a psyop, because we're seeing in real life now these symbolic elements brought forth into politics with all these kids that watch the Hunger Games that are now young adults. They're getting this subliminally, or even just overtly, this imagery that's triggering them to feel like they are in the Hunger Games. And what was the message of the Hunger Games was basically you can end up in a world where you both simultaneously distrust authority and yet will do exactly as it says and fight to the death for limited resources, and you're waiting on someone to save you, right?
Yeah.
The heroine. And we see all these people that outnumber the establishment, but they submit, and they could all join together and overthrow. But instead, they wait for a teenage girl to save them, right? And it's a pretty good analogy for trying to make everybody feel like there's hopelessness, but also, if there is hope, it's only when you can put faith into that superhero that can come in and save the day. Never can it be the people uniting and using the power of the people like they did with the financial markets recently.
Yeah, actually, in that same article about Stockdale, and I think that came from the Epic Times, Stockdale, they said, well, who died? And he said the optimists, the ones who thought, we're going to be out by Christmas, because then Christmas came and went and they weren't gone. I think he was there for like 7.5 years. He was in this prison camp. So he said, well, the people who went by those kinds of dates, it's a way to kill them because they die of a broken heart. They die of a
That's
broken
true.
heart. And then the opposite, or the place way past that, because hope can kill people. I heard another guy talking about that, how hope is great, it serves a purpose, but it can kill you when you oppress your instinct to act, in the sense of take care of things in your own life. You know, not charging someone in a violent way, but the instinct to act by, okay, what do I have to do in my own life, you know, with my own house, with my food, with my water, with my whatever, so that I can operate as a free being and not be terrified in the middle of the night.
And I think that before that happens, someone has to recognize the threat. And a lot of people are having trouble recognizing the threat. They don't even know where it's coming from, what's going on. I can say with as much certainty as I can say that gravity exists, that if this plan that's been trusted and dates pushed and things keep changing with it, if it's real, obviously, then this doesn't really matter, but we should prepare like it's not. And what I can say with as much certainty as possible is, if it isn't real or it fails, then at some point everyone in the Western world is going to have their door kicked in. And that is
You mean
definite.
if there were a plan to save us and it failed, in the case that it
Right.
failed, then you're going to pay the price because you're just sitting there like fish in a barrel?
Exactly. Exactly. Yes.
You took your sterility drink and did everything to cooperate because you thought that like another guy was going to take care of it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, it's a good thing to see that this plan could exist and to have hope for it, but not to put all your hope in it, and to understand that you need to have a plan for yourself and your own family, and that is as a single unit. And then you also need to connect and communicate with other people that are with you, and start talking about what will you do if this plan isn't real, or it is real but it fails.
Yeah, and a part of this, underneath all this, I think the occult knows very well that there's certain images that are almost instinctive in our unconscious. I don't know how that works, but supposedly there's some issues with, maybe it's butterflies or there's things that animals learn that they pass on to their offspring. And it seems like there are these ancient images in the human consciousness that, however it got there, you can be in a way triggered by these images, these archetypes. It seems like some people know that and they use it. And so if you have any contact with the artificial world, the machine, the man-made world, you are probably experiencing these old symbols that are powerful in ways that we have not been allowed to know.
That's interesting. So it's almost like our genetic memory can autonomically create these responses in our brains. And
would you put it past them? I wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
With all the symbology that they use, they absolutely believe in symbols and the power of them. Whether or not it's to manipulate and coerce us, or just as a hidden in plain sight signal to each other. There's a lot of that happens where, they do little hand movements or wear a pin on their left lapel while they're talking on camera. And there's a lot of this signaling that happens, and it's done visually, outwardly, because it's a language that can't be deciphered through text, because it doesn't exist in text. It doesn't exist over the phone. It's not something that we can see and understand what they're saying, and there's no, unless you have the codex, unless you have the cipher, you don't understand it. And thankfully there's been quite a few people that were on the inside that have given us the cipher, and there's a way to know it.
Well, we at least know that there's something going on. And when people are going through red pills, one of the strangest things that I saw was Christine Lagarde, who I think she might have been head of the IMF, has something to do with world banking. And she was talking in front of a room full of those people, and she was talking about numerology, and she was talking about what the numbers mean. And she said, of course, we all know blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, why would a room full of world bankers know numerology? Why would they know that? Did anybody ever mention that to you in school? No. That they all knew. And she was talking about it like this is something, of course they know.
Well, when you start to see what the power numbers are, and then you go back and you look at most of the violent terrorism that's occurred since, well, practically history was recorded, there's way too many events that take place on dates that are in alignment with those power numbers. So.
I don't want to need to know the satanic calendar. That's just where the world is putting me.
Right, exactly. And you know what I always say to the agnostics or the atheists is, it doesn't really matter if you believe it. What matters is they believe it.
Yeah. Well, and there's powers that we don't understand, and no one is going to tell us the truth about it. And that's part of red pilling, is just, you have to know no one is going to tell you the truth about it, about anything, because everybody makes money from lying to you about something. They keep you sick enough that you with pharma and at the hospital, they keep you sick enough that you're just barely alive. You can go to work and you can buy more pills. That's what that does. And then everywhere you go in the world, you're basically on a conveyor belt for your wallet. And that's why truth can be free, but you can't find it easily.
Right. It's getting harder all the time. And if I can just circle back here for a second.
Saki is stupid.
Yeah. When we talk about the red pill being depressing, if you wake up to the way things are, but then you instantly gravitate towards somebody that's giving you tidbits of deep truth and 99%, fluff, and you're doing that possibly because you're feeling the darkness of the truth and you don't want to look at it. But what we need to do is understand fundamentally that the truth and love are the same. They're on the same side, and the lie and hatred are on the other side. And even though the truth will piss you off first, it will set you free. And the reason why is because you can't fight a war if you're looking at an illusion. You can't accurately prepare and plan and tactically have any advantage or even defend yourself properly if you're looking at something that doesn't exist. If you are not looking at reality, then you can't plan from reality.
Yeah, and people have to realize that everything around us, whatever you see, you're probably being shown. You're being shown that for a convenience of somebody else. So every single thing you see, you can't just take that for what it looks like it is. You can process
face value.
Yeah, you can process, why am I being shown this? Like, for example, in every war that they want to make us do, they'll always say somebody hurt some kids. And then they'll show you some sad kids. Now, usually there's a ton of evidence that those are fake. That those clips are...
They walked in and they lit incubators on fire.
Yeah. Over and over and over again. And I can't... when they did this last time with Syria, and all the liberals jumped on it, like, we gotta go help these kids. And I'm just holding my head thinking, okay, we don't have anybody who questions war anymore. We don't have anyone. Because supposedly that was supposed to be Democrats, for a while. The neocon red people were wanting the war machine, whatever. Neocons. Not Trump supporters, but neocons. But the Democrats, there is no such thing as like an anti-war Democrat right now. So the military complex can go blow up whoever they want, and all these Democrats are going to say, this is fantastic, we are helping these kids. It's weird.
Yes.
It's weird that we don't pick up on it.
Well, once we started giving Nobel Peace Prizes to people that drone bomb children in Yemen, then we kind of flipped the script, right?
Yeah. War is peace. Peace is war. Truth is lies. Whatever. Yeah. So.
But I think the darkness of the red pill, it eventually breaks, and then you actually get to see the light, and you get to live in the light, and you have to get through that darkness to get
There's
there.
a lot of letting go. There's a lot of letting go, and even I've been through this for so long because I was born mad. I saw a world where good people suffered and bad people thrived. I saw that way too early, and it was like looking at the sun. And then I just sat around mad for a long time. But it's a lot to process.
Well, I can relate to that. When I was a child, I saw, with our Western slant view of the world, that people were the nicest to each other around Christmas time. And I always used to ask myself as a child why people couldn't be like that all the time. And then I started to understand, because around that time people tend to realize the truth and how short life is, and how they've spent so much of this last year focusing on all these things that don't really matter, that when they get into that mode and they feel like they're allowed to focus on what matters again, then they become different people. They become happier, they become more giving, they become deeper, and it's because they're in alignment more with the truth. But we've, as a society, conditioned ourselves to ignore the truth, and that's part of what led us here.
Well, and around Christmas time, people remember something that's really important, which is service to each other. And I heard a line the other day, service to each other is where we find our freedom. Now, I also thought that sounds a little bit communist. You could use it that way, but
Just don't say the word comrade. In
yeah. But the idea that part of this dead space that people hit, this wall, is because they're in their own minds and they're very much alone in their minds. And there's still a whole world of people out there who need you, who need your service. And there's little kids being born right now. And actually that's why I kind of make a point to transform death into life, because those little kids are walking into something I wouldn't be brave enough to walk into. So the very least thing I can do is at least try to provide some cushion or lessen the suffering of other living things before I die. That's basically all I can do, because it's not like anything that I do is going to right the wrongs of the world. Nothing I can do will stop them. Right now, as we speak, they're using my tax money to blow somebody up, and it's all against my will. The only thing that I can do is be here with you, and for a few minutes. And what comes of that is I'm finding that each of us is kind of, it's hard for us to manifest the good things we think about on our own. But one thing that's happening is we all are triggering each other to manifest better things into this world. And it becomes like a snowflake, where every leaf of the snowflake goes off on its own and expands. So the people I talk to, we talk about profound things, and then we all walk away to our own parts of the world, and then a guy over there will think, maybe I'll do this, I'll write this, I'll put this idea out there. Other people are doing jokes. I mean, Wallace, you make me laugh all the time. Your jokes are life to me. They give me life. And I was born pissed off. But it makes me feel better.
That's special.
Yeah.
No, I think you're right. I think we're all resonating towards goodness and light and truth and love. And as we collaborate and get together, we're inspiring each other to look at our own talents and skill sets and decide, what can I do? And then we're more likely to figure that out, go out there and do it. And like the old adage says, the best way to change the world is to change your little corner of it. But in this way, we're all finding how we can do that with our corner for the first time in our lives in a way that is actually going in the right direction. And that is to realize that putting your faith in single individuals has never worked in the history of mankind.
No.
Putting your faith in the idea that a human being can stand between you and God and tell you what God is trying to tell you when you can hear it yourself. There's power in a direct relationship to reality, a direct relationship to the truth, to God, and to put someone else in between any of that is to essentially give up. And we all need to be directly responsible and have direct relationships with reality and God,
And creation.
From there we work out, how can I change my little corner?
Yeah, we in the place past death. There's the death of your ego, your dreams, your future, the future you thought you had. I always loved traveling, and I traveled a little bit before, but then stuff came up, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll go do it later. And then, now they want checkpoints. Now they want to charge me. Now when I try to fly somewhere, they treat me like I'm a prisoner before I even get on a plane.
Yes.
So there's the death.
You don't want 10 anal swabs to go to
Wallace,
travel overseas?
Wallace, I don't know how much I'm willing to even do it anymore. I'm just not willing for them to treat me like a prisoner, and I've done nothing. I'm a free citizen. I've broken no law. And other people are willing to do it. I see them going to Florida, okay, maybe, but I gotta really, I have to make a soul decision to be willing.
Well, now in Canada, it's, from what I've just seen recently, it's gone beyond just treating people like tagged cattle.
Yeah.
They're going from, the grazing yard to the slaughterhouse. Now they are finding people at airports that supposedly had tested negative and telling them that their test is invalid,
Oh my God.
and then kidnapping them without telling their families where they're going, bringing them to hotels owned by Radisson Incorporated, which is a Chinese company.
Wow.
And then at their own expense having to pay at least $2,000 while they are forcibly confined in that hotel room and wait for their tests that are done by approved government officials to come back negative before they're allowed out. And during that time, their families are not allowed to know where they are. So we've been hearing a lot about camps for COVID deniers being run around in conspiracy circles. And another issue is, from what I've seen, and I haven't confirmed this yet, but I plan on looking into it today, is that the government up there has started to buy hotels.
Oh,
and,
boy.
So this is a disturbing revelation.
Pass the
but
soap,
it's also,
Wallace. Pass the soap.
Yes, but it also asks, it begs the question, what's going to happen here? And when I look at what's happening in Italy versus in Canada, I see two destinations that we could be going in. One of them is to submit, and everything's just going to keep getting worse. Another one is to stand up, but I guarantee you that Italy is going to have a severely deadly version of COVID, whether it's a biological weapon that's been designed to force people who don't want to comply when they see the death rate explode. But I am predicting that just defying these orders isn't going to be enough, because if I were a globalist that wanted full control of the earth, and I'm using a virus to coerce populations, and I saw what was happening in Italy, I would absolutely be ready for that. And I would absolutely have a punishment ready.
Ooh.
Something that makes the people that stood up go, were we wrong to do this? How many people just died because of us? And the people that are on the side of oppression already, that are already in favor of putting deniers in concentration camps, those people will say, haha, look at what you did. We were right to trust science and the government. The government loves us. They are protecting us. They are looking out for our well-being. And so I hate to say it, but if just defying the order is not enough, then what is? And that's a question we're going to have to start asking ourselves, is if we actually want to defeat what is coming, we can't put all our hopes in a plan that may or may not be working behind the scenes.
And defeating it, we can at least push back. And there's that saying that, why bother to fight? Well, if you don't, it's guaranteed death. So
Right.
you can at least push back, and there's a million ways to push back in ways that people don't. I run into people everywhere who have no idea anything is going on, and they're pretty casual. They're still busy just trying to get laid. That's all they're thinking about. So
Right.
I don't know. The people who are more aware, I don't know. And what you just said, even as you're saying it, it's like a bad dream. And I watch these things and I see it unfold, and even for me, it's like, are we in space? What?
Yeah. You wake up every morning pinching yourself,
Yeah,
and then you
what is
realize,
going
yep,
on?
this is what's happening.
But one thing I know for sure, if we're gonna look at what's real, and only a small number of people are even truly interested in what's true, and that's okay, because the human animal is not designed for this. The sheep is a gentle and precious animal. The sheep is not naturally diabolical and psychopathic, and that's part of its virtue. That sheep are gentle and vulnerable. This other thing that's a predator is different. I don't know what it is, but it's different. And it wants to eat the sheep alive. So,
Yes.
But if we're going to look at it, you have to really prepare your body and your mind and your soul You have to literally tell your organs, help me breathe, help me live, so that I can experience this. Because your body, I really think your body will try everything it can to protect you. In some ways, I think suicide can be an attempt to save your life. Because suicide is a way to save yourself by, save your ego by killing your body.
Right.
So there's a part in you, inside of that body, inside of that heart and those lungs, that your body will do anything it can to protect. And when you are looking at this and you're walking into this, you have to give your body permission to live through it.
That's absolutely true. You have to be prepared for a very rough go if you're going to fight this out.
If you're not, your heart will just... People can die of a broken heart. That sounds like a very simple way to say it, but there's truth to it. There's a reason that saying exists. And like Stockdale was saying, those people that in the camps, when they thought they were going to be out by Christmas and Christmas came and went, they died of a broken heart. Now that's
Right.
a guy like him saying that from what he observed. There's truth in it. And people can shut down. Their bodies can shut down. So somehow you have to get through that wall. Like sit at the wall if you need to. Sit at the wall and just process it and just contemplate and maybe step back, maybe check out. And just know that there's a place of life past that. And it's a place of service to each other, and there's creation and there's life. And it's growing exponentially. That place of life.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
There's so many people now that are over the wall.
It's like
or
diamonds.
have smashed through
It is like, I feel like I'm watching shimmering diamonds all around me because I'm seeing people transform even from something that wasn't quite so alive and aware into something that is now expanding. Now, I'm never ever meaning Christ consciousness, because Christ consciousness is New Age, and that is the chosen religion of the New World Order. So people get those things mixed up when they start saying like, oh, the God is in me, I am the universe. Okay, maybe you are the universe, but I'm not telling you the New Age religion, because that's all planned. That's in their textbooks. They're like, here, we'll get rid of the Abrahamic religions and we'll give this other one to the people. But
the one world religion is definitely one where you lose the individual, and that's the key, right? The key is to lose individuality, and if you do, then you are willing to sacrifice yourself for the collective, and you don't believe in individual rights. And man, do we ever see that on the left, where I've asked so many of them if they believe in individual liberty, and they seem to believe in collective liberty, which is an illusion that doesn't exist, because if the individual within your group doesn't have liberty, then nobody does. But that's the key to the one world religion is you don't matter. You are not special.
You're selfish.
Right. And if we're telling you that your existence is hurting someone else, then you should be willing to submit to the execution booth,
Wow,
right?
so dark.
But in a good way, a lot of people have finally rejected this idea that a human being needs to stand between you and God, because what's being said in a lot of these churches now is just so revolting and
The churches,
insulting.
yeah, churches are in total collapse. They're in total collapse, and in every branch, they're basically the New World Order saying, relax.
And that's great, because it's caused so many people to reject the idea that you need a go-between to have a relationship with God, and you need to have the person who's been trained at the proper religious institute to tell you the interpretation to take from every little word that's in the Bible. And there's so much control there, and the idea of separation of church and state, it's so much of an illusion. You know, it was on paper, and that was it. But the church has always been in and out of being a useful tool of the ruling class, and there's a lot of truth that still makes it through, but there's a lot of control and a lot of defeating ideas about submitting to oppression, to getting on your knees. I mean, I remember a pastor when I was in church, when I was young, telling everybody at some point in your life you were going to get put on your knees by soldiers, and you're going to have a picture of Jesus put in front of you, and you'll be told to denounce Jesus and to spit in his face, or you'll have a bullet put in your brain. And when I heard that, I was maybe 12 years old, and it raised the hair on the back of my neck, because what I heard was somebody telling me, in the future, someone's going to come for you, and your job is to die. And I can't see a loving God wanting that situation for the people that love him back.
Well, that's very ironic, because I think you're somebody who's willing to die for what's true.
Oh, I absolutely will.
So it's kind of ironic.
But when I hear that, you know, it to me it sounded like somebody that was preparing a group of people to not fight.
To not fight.
That's what it sounded like. Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Because there was this. The rest of the sermon had to do with the humility of Christ and being humble, and it was put in a way where your job is not ever to take up arms and fight against oppression.
Interesting.
Against evil men. So what I got from that was, if ever there's a situation where Christians are being persecuted, your job is to not fight back.
Interesting. Well, it's for another day, but there's that whole God wins thing, which is basically saying, God wins, shut up. And if you don't believe it or you ask questions, you don't have faith and you're a bad person.
Right.
God wins, shut up.
Do nothing. Yeah. God wins, do nothing. God wins, don't fight back. God wins, kneel and take a bullet.
Yeah, show that you have faith, and you're just like people were yelling at me for not having faith. And it's really not, it's not that. And the job of shepherds is to stand in the gap on behalf of the innocent. Not to line you up for the train.
Exactly. And isn't it interesting that so much of the Bible is filled with God leading his army of Israelites up against the forces of evil, or against their enemies, and slaughtering and wiping them out, right? There's so much of that in the Bible, and we're told that God is guiding and leading them. And why? Well, because according to the Bible, the Israelites were being persecuted, and they weren't being given their land that they believed was rightfully theirs, and a lot of conflicts happening in the Middle East at the time. And we're told that God fought for them and stood behind them as they took up arms against them.
Oh yeah, and Islam is very confident in
yes. They don't teach people to kneel and take bullets in mosques.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you have to be willing to. It's funny you say that, because I saw a quote earlier. It might have been Socrates. It was something like, "For the philosopher, dying is a profession," something like that. It was about the long process of dying being the work of a philosopher, which is true on so many different levels. Well, see, Wallace, I could talk to you all day.
We'll have to save that one for next time. I think we can talk quite a while about where the church is and this revival that's happening. And we're all sort of in this digital revival tent together. And at the moment, there's quite a lot of empty seats. But there are people here, and when they realize this is where the truth lives, then they're going to tell people. And pretty soon the revival tent's going to be full and overflowing. And we will be the ones that put fear in the hearts of our enemies, because we'll be standing in the truth. And
well, the people are where the life is, that's for sure. The people are where the spark of life is. And even, no matter who you look at the media, they're just dying and turning to pillars of salt. The dying machine, the death is going to become more and more obvious as it's just decaying. Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell, they're already like 100 years old. And
Yeah.
the machine is dying. But then there's a lot of people who can't see it. They can't see it. But for those who have ears to hear and eyes to see, they can see this fork happening with the death on one side and the life on the other. And the people are where the life is. The goodness, the love, the laughter, the sunlight, the animals. All of it resonates on a frequency of light.
And the place to be is in the tent where everyone is building a direct relationship to God and the truth and love. And the place that people are scattering from is the place where human beings are convincing others that you can't have any of that without me. And the death of that is necessary. We need to be directly responsible and directly building those relationships if we're going to go forward with the truth and fight with love in our hearts.
Yeah. It's each of us becoming the best version of ourselves and also in service to each other.
And not relying on people to save us or to tell us what to
Yeah,
think.
because they might
Or-
not save us. We might not get saved. And that's where the what you said about, being willing to die, we might not get saved. And so I look at it that we're singing a song until we die. And someone said to me the other day, nobody liked it when the Christians sang as they were being eaten alive. It is what it is. We're here until we die, so we might as well sing and tell jokes. And if they want to give us a hard time while we're singing, they look ridiculous. It is what it is.
I refuse to denounce what I believe in on the threat of death, but I also refuse to kneel. So
Well,
people will have to forgive me for that.
Wallace, that's why you're dangerous.
Yes. Dangerous in
Honesty-
the minds of people.
Honesty is dangerous. Truth has become a crime.
Dangerous like a buffalo just standing alone in a field trying to eat grass, mind his own
I
business.
love it. I love it. All he's doing is standing there.
But somebody is trying to come up to him with a cattle prod. What's going to happen?
Yeah, and they can have a totally different nature. Bulls are famous for being mean. But I saw a bull the other day that got his first bed. He was so happy.
Oh,
He
yes.
was cuddly. Bulls are famous for being full of rage because they just are. They're wild things that can't be contained. But give them a cushion. Everybody loves a sofa. Every living thing loves a sofa.
There's always a way to get at the heart.
Yeah. So I guess that's where the place of life is. In the heart. In the soul. All these other things can
And
die, but it doesn't have to kill you.
Exactly. There's light at the end. Well, it looks like this fire is getting a bit low. I should probably put another piece of wood on that.
Do that.